Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast, and it is late night on Thursday as the Lakers and Pellies are still playing in this in-season tournament game. We're bringing you player props here for Friday. 13 games on the slate, including those two games with the four teams that lost in the quarterfinals there of the in-season tournament. We also have a best bets video up for you today, so like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along. Check both of these videos out each and every weekday this season. Also head to thelines.com. We have that awesome prop finder tool up there to make sure that you are getting the best juice from all of these books giving you bets this NBA season. Nate, let's go ahead and get into your first play a prop. Former friend of the show, Gordo Hayward, making an appearance.
Yeah, this isn't pretty, and the odds are juiced down to minus 125 for him to score 15. I mean, maybe you take an alt line for 17 points or so, because I was waiting to see Gordon Hayward's props pop up here because LaMelo Ball ruled out again, and Gordo has been productive. I mean, he's healthy for now, I will say. His last three, he's been able to play 33 minutes, 22 points a game on 25% usage against three good defenses, including the Bulls and Wolves. Since the start of last season, he averages 16.5 without LaMelo versus 14.5 with him. Usage rate goes up 3%. His last full game against the Toronto Raptors, just 2 years ago at this point, he had 25 points. But this Raptors, defense, you might worry like, oh, the swarming wings and they're so athletic, and it just is like that doesn't necessarily bother Hayward's game. Like, he gets to his spots and he has that kind of lean back jump shot that he able to find a way to get it in the basket. I mean, I would still take over 1.5 turnovers, which is also juiced way down because he's going to have the ball in his hands a little too much. But this Raptors defense has not been great on the road. 1-4 in their last 5 with a 119 defensive rating. And in the last 2 weeks, they're allowing the 6th most points to shooting guards at 23.5. So I'll take Hayward over Miles Bridges in terms of the Hornets trying to find some offense to replace what they lose with LaMelo.
Godspeed, man. I support it. I don't have anything for you as I've avoided capping almost every Hornets game this season, I would imagine. But like, I get it. And LaMelo's out, so you're going to go find it. We love to do that on this show when we know that someone's not playing, who steps in and eats those stats up. And we'll see some more Gordo in this one. I'll just go into a bet that's going to sound chalky. But I mean, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, over 30.5 points. Let's not overcomplicate this, man. That might even rise a bit before, too long, and before the game tips tomorrow to like 31, maybe 32. I see, because we talked about in the best bets video, that total probably will rise from the opening of 234.5, where it was at on most books, which means that inevitably the dude most likely to score the most points in this game will have his total rise. Look, and the reason I say that, by the way, is like Steph, it's not that he's going to have a bad game. He always does well in Oklahoma City. But anyway, SGA, I just can't stay away. So he's a top 3 ISO player in the league. I really wanted to get into this, and I was like, well, I know that I'm going to dig in and find that Shai is a top 3 ISO player in the league. I mean, he does it the 6th most frequently. His 77% of the buckets that he scores are coming off of unassisted field goals because he's playing in that ISO. He has the number 1 scoring frequency when he's in isolation, most likely to score player, doing it the 6th most times. He has the number 1 points per possession, 4th most points per game. This is just a bad matchup. He did have a poor shooting game last time out, dropped 40, needed overtime to get 40, but had 31 going into overtime, so that would have gotten us over. The 2 games that he has failed to go over 30 points in his last 6 games playing this team, he just shot 6 for 16. They were both in Golden State. They were both on the road. This game's in Oklahoma City, where he scores a few more points. He was 6 for 16, and then he was 6 for 20 earlier this year when he played at Golden State and scored 26 on them. The free throws have been a little bit fluctuating for him against this team because Golden State has gotten better at not fouling. For most of last season, they were giving up like 28 free throw attempts a game for a while because they just couldn't stop fouling. And they've gotten a little bit more disciplined this season. Shy's still good for an average of almost 7 free throws a game against them over the last 4, and that includes 2 free throws in the game that he just scored 40. 2 for 2 from the line, scoring 40 points is very impressive, especially for a guy like Shy who scores like 28% of his points from the free throw line on average. Golden State is allowing the fifth most points per game to point guards. Quick aside there, be careful when you're looking at different sites. Some sites will like denote a guy as a point guard because he brings the ball up, but he's really not. So it like skews the stats. But we like to use the FanDuel Fantasy Pros most commonly for that one, and that was telling me about him allowing the fifth most points to point guards. So yeah, shy to eat against a bad isolation offense in the Dubs, defense rather.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned in the best bets how Draymond was getting blown by Shaedon Sharpe in the last game. So lost a step as the anchor of the back line. If you are worried that he dropped 40 because Draymond was out in that overtime game, I mean, him being back in there, not necessarily going to make a huge difference. I mean, especially because Shy is not a one-dimensional player by any means. He gets to his spots and then he pivots and spins and hits all sorts of weird mid-range shots and just like, yeah, the easiest 30 out there right now. And if you like a high scoring environment, then he should get his 30. So this prop is not out yet, but Cole Anthony, I will take, anywhere around 20 PRA. They're acting as if Jalen Suggs is going to play. He sprained his ankle last night. I mean, I don't see why he would rush back to play the Detroit Pistons here. Markelle Fultz has been ruled out, but that's why the prop is not out yet, because they think maybe Suggs plays. Honestly, it'd be great if Jalen Suggs plays because you will get an even lower prop for Cole Anthony, who's going to still get plenty of minutes off the bench here and will probably finish the game because it's probably going to be a blowout for the Magic at home. But, I mean, the one game Suggs has missed entirely this game, Cole went for 11, 8, and 7 in 37 minutes off the bench. Again, I think he'll stay in that role. They like to start Anthony Black and then immediately yank him because they're like, what are you doing out here? But Cole has been great. He's just simply great. Double-digit points in 11 of his last 12, averaging 17 a game, 5.3 rebounds, 4 assists, and that's in just 28 minutes per game. If he gets 36, his per 36 numbers are 21, 6.5, and 5 dimes. And the matchup against Detroit is just chef's kiss. I mean, giving up the most point per game to point guards on the season. That's up to 34.6 in the last week here. Did they play SGA or something? I mean, that's ridiculous. Jalen Duren is out, not going to be able to protect the rim as well without him. But yeah, I just love the idea of Cole Anthony leading the second unit in a blowout to get you these props.
I'm so glad that you set me up with the question of what they play SGA or something. Actually, the number one contributor to destroying their average against point guards is D'Angelo Russell, who had 34 on him in that Lakers game. That was a big part of that number coming up in the last 7 days. So, it wasn't even SGA, dog. Don't give him that much credit. Let's move on to the last pick here for me, which is Jay Randall on behalf of my boy Nate, who brought it to my attention. I was looking at it. He likes the points, 21.5. I see it. I'm also going to throw the PRA in there for him. He's one of those dudes that I like to get my bases covered in this situation because I know he's going to try to have an impact on this game. I just don't know if he's going to decide to be like, yo, I'm Debo on you guys out here. I'm going to get all these rebounds because the rebound chances are there for him. Even against the Celtics, who are a really good rebounding team, the rebound chances are there for him. Mitchell Robinson and KP will be doing their thing. I like him when Al Horford is off the floor, especially, which Papa Al's been getting when Kristaps is out there, which he's probable to play. Papa Al gets 25 minutes per game right now. So that goes down, and you've got a lot of Jason Tatum, who, God bless him, ain't as strong as Julius Randle. So I like to add the rebounds. And randomly, when Jay Randle's I'm going to throw the assists in there, he has averaged about almost more than 5 assists per game versus this team in his last 6 versus them. The potential assists continue to stay there for Jay Randle as well, because it's always he or Jay Brunson that has the ball in their hands, unless Quickly's on the floor, and they will allow him to sometimes play make as well. But it is predominantly those two guys. So as far as the recent numbers against Boston, they're always good. Like I said, when Julius Randle's engaged, he's a very, very good player. When he's not, well, he's James Harden when he's not engaged. Same concept. His last 6 versus them, he's averaged 26.5 and 9 boards, plus the 4 assists. He's got that 31% usage. I always like to make sure there's a good usage there because like even for the assists, at least I know the ball's in his hands a ton. And Jay Randall's scoring a ton of his points, I believe, still up to 29.5% off of unassisted field goals. So like that's just telling me that he's either going to score or dime up. That's why I like to add them. Anyway, the last 5 overall and even the last 10 overall, he's well over this number because he's at 24.5 and 10 in the points and rebounds department. If you just trim that down even further to the last 5, which as we know has had like 3, at least 2 really important games for them because they were in-season tournament games. Even though one of them was against the Charlotte Hornets, they still needed to score a lot of points, so that game's in there. 28.5 points, 10 boards, almost 6 assists, still around the 30% usage. There was a weird moment in time at the beginning of the season where he couldn't hit the Bronx side of a barn. That's why he went 14 points, 11 boards, and 6 assists, or 7 assists rather, in the very first game of the season against the Celtics team. But on the road, as a guy who likes to like I said, impact big games, I'm going to take Jay Randall to get the over 35.5 PRA.
Yeah, Knicks get up for these games. I mean, it's a true rivalry. Celtics should be up for it. I mean, on the other end, you got to like Tatum 25.5 points. That's pretty low for the Celtics back home, and it's because both these guys are just brutal matchups for each other. And the Celtics, I think part of the reason Randall has numbers against the Celtics is because they're like, well, we'll put Tatum at the 4 and good luck dealing with him. And then the Knicks' response is they have to feed Randall down low because Tatum can't guard him. So yeah, you're spot on to say when Al Horford's off the floor, that's when Randall is going to try to eat down low.
Yep, exactly. Still love you, Papa Al, but I think our days of betting on your overs are starting to wane into nothing. But that is all the time we have for you guys. Continue to follow along. Check out the best bets video that we have up for you, bringing you that and these player props every single weekday of this NBA season. So until we see you next, happy betting.